Welcome on in to the Josh Reese Show! Here live from Toyota Center, talking about the Houston Rockets' 125-104 win overneath the San Antonio Spurs here in Game 4. There will be a Game 6. Guys, my name is Josh Reese, and if this is your first time checking out the Josh Reese Show, first of all, let me welcome you on in to my humble YouTube channel, here where we talk about Houston Rockets, Houston Astros, Houston Texans, WWE, really whatever the hell's on my mind from time to time. But if this is your first time, there are a few things I would like for you to do if you do enjoy these videos. First of all, feel free to like, feel free to share, feel free to subscribe the hell out of this YouTube channel. Also, feel free to comment, let me know what you think about the video. I would appreciate it. And also, the final thing I would like for you to do, please, this would mean a lot to me personally, if you guys can please follow my friends over at Countryside Massage here in Conroe, Texas, and tell them the Josh Reese Show sent you. It'll get you nothing, but it'll make me feel better. I would appreciate it. They are supporters of the Josh Reese Show, and I am supporters of them. Very good massages. But now that we're all done with that, let's get into the game. The Rockets blew out the Spurs in the first quarter, and there was really kind of no turning back from there. But the Spurs, I don't want to say they came relaxed, but they didn't bring the same intensity that the Houston Rockets brought from the first quarter. From jump, the Rockets came out and kind of pedaled past the San Antonio Spurs to the tune of 13 first quarter points and 34 points overall. In fact, it was the first time the Rockets have scored 30-plus points in a quarter since Game 2 in the first quarter. Insane. Spurs have locked down defensively from there. And, of course, the Rockets lost both those games, Games 2 and 3. So, lots to like in the first quarter. James Harden and friends were pretty much scoring all over the place. James Harden had 8 points. Everyone else contributed during that quarter. They had 22 points in the paint, which I thought was key. They were getting on into the paint like it was nothing. Oftentimes they were driving through the paint a few times, and they were moving the ball very well until they found the shot that they wanted. They had 8 assists in the quarter. They were just moving it and running it, and the Spurs really had no recourse there early. Spurs themselves had 22 points, and They just did not look very good in the first quarter. They didn't look like they were there completely mentally for some reason. But a little bit of drama did happen. Nene ended up going down midway through the first quarter and ended up having to leave. Later on, we would learn that Nene would go to the hospital to get an MRI. It turned out he had a growing pull, a left growing pull, which, to be honest, it sounds very painful. So hopefully Nene will be back. Will be back sometime soon. But usually going to the hospital during the game is nothing that screams like he's going to be back anytime soon. So the Rockets are probably going to have to deal with that later on. But tonight they did struggle a little bit. Sam Decker would come in after Nene went down, and they would go small for a large part of the game. Sam Decker would end up not playing very much in the game. But I think that's something that the Houston Rockets might kind of look towards later on as they get Sam maybe more involved in the series. But first quarter ends, Rockets up 34-22. Everything's smiling, looking good. But the San Antonio Spurs came out in quarter number 2 and kind of weaseled their way back into the game. They ended up scoring 31 points in the quarter, held the Rockets to their own 20-point quarter, 23. And you started to feel like things were starting to slide back into the San Antonio Spurs way. It kind of felt a little bit like Game 2. While the Spurs led at the end of the first quarter, the Rockets also scored 30 points. I think they scored 33 or something like that. But the Spurs led. Then the Spurs came out and kind of just gradually added on to their lead. And that's kind of the way it felt in Game 4 here, except the Spurs didn't lead. But it felt like the Spurs were getting right back into it. Kawhi Leonard had 11 points on the quarter, and it really felt like the Rockets were kind of struggling. Clint Capella played 3 minutes. He got into some foul trouble, and without Nene, it really felt like the Rockets were trying to kind of figure out how to work things out. Excuse me. And it took them a while to do that. They really wouldn't get going until the third quarter. But overall, Eric Gordon had 3 points. The bench did not do very well. The bench is usually the second quarter. The second quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter are usually when the bench shines the best. And they did not. Eric Gordon was minus 11 during the second, and the Spurs just looked a lot better in the second quarter. And it was a little bit worrisome going into halftime because you knew Nene was not coming back. The Rockets had already shared that Nene was done, out for the game. So you were kind of worried. The Spurs, a very big and physical team, you worry that they're just going to start, beating down the Houston Rockets, grabbing rebounds, posting them up all game long. Luckily, they ended up not doing that. But that was the worry heading into the third quarter. But the Rockets finished the half. They were up 4. They were happy about the lead, I'm sure, but very dangerous with the Spurs only down 4. If the Rockets kept that lead at 4 going into the fourth quarter, you kind of felt that the Spurs were eventually going to overtake them. But the Rockets were hitting their shots. They were 7 of 18 from the three-point line, 50% from the field overall. They were pretty damn on fire early. And come out in the third quarter, the Rockets, again, punched the Spurs in the stomach. And that was pretty much it from the Spurs after that. They scored 34 points, allowed the Spurs to score 24. They had They had 8 assists on the quarter, so the ball movement was going all the way around. And James Harden was on fire in this quarter. He had 11 points of his own. He got 14 points for his teammates through threes and layups. He was just working all over the floor. Scary part, though, James Harden ended up going down, and it was a little bit weird because his leg kind of landed funny when he was I think he was trying to get Danny Green off of him, and he felt something and he immediately called timeout. He would stay on the ground for a minute or two and ended up hobbling himself off to the bench, but luckily he would come in after the timeout, and he looked fine after that. But Rockets pretty much did their damage. 34 points, held the Spurs to 23. Scored another 8 threes in that quarter. One of the biggest shots in the quarter was to end the third quarter. James Harden coming off a screen, tosses to Ryan Anderson about 30 feet out. 30 feet out. Okay, so he was probably right about here. Swish. That is something that has been missing from the Houston Rockets offense for far too long, is that long Ryan Anderson 3. It came back tonight, maybe just once, but it made a debut tonight, and hopefully that's something that's going to stay for the Houston Rockets for the rest of the series. It's going to make them that much more deadlier if they advance into the next series. It'll make them much more deadlier in this playoffs if they're able to continue doing that. But it was a very good 3. Ryan Anderson had 3 threes overall, 3 threes on the night overall. So I'm sure it was a big confidence boost for him. Anderson, after the game, says he just has to keep shooting them, whether they go in or not. We've mentioned this before. Ryan Anderson just needs to shoot them. It doesn't matter if they go in or not. He just needs to pull the trigger. Again, earlier in the game, before the third quarter, you saw him pass up threes just left and right, tossing them to other people, try to get them open shots. Granted, it was good ball movement, but it's a lot better if Ryan Anderson shoots those threes in this offense. It just makes a lot more sense when he does. So Rockets would end up going into the fourth quarter with a big old fat lead, leading by 19 points. As I nearly knock over my damn table here. Sorry about that. They're up 91-76, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Greg Popovich would not play Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Gasol, Danny Green. They played 0 minutes in the fourth quarter in a game they needed. They didn't need to win, but I'm sure they would have liked to win. That way they could close out in San Antonio. Instead, he did not, and the Rockets increased their lead, and they would never come back in. James Harden would come back in for about 2 minutes. He'd be +7 in those 2 minutes, and he'd sit his ass back down on the bench and rest for the remainder of the game. Oddly enough, Bobby Brown would come in. How long did Bobby Brown play? Bobby Brown played 5 minutes and scored 11 points, knocking down shots all over the place. And it leads me to question and wonder if Bobby Brown could do those in an actual contested game. He seems to do very good in garbage time, and maybe I'm starting to lean slightly closer to Bobby Brown, just a little bit more. On off nights like in Game 3, when Ryan Anderson isn't shooting, when Eric Gordon isn't shooting, when Lou Williams isn't shooting, why not try Bobby Brown for 2 minutes and see if he can come out lights on fire? But I don't know. I digress. That will never happen, but it would be interesting if it did. So overall in the night, Rockets score 125 points, 104 points for the San Antonio Spurs. For some reason, every single game during this series is a blowout. I'm not really entirely sure why. It just ends up being that way. But very good signs for the Rockets. You kind of wondered if it was going to be difficult for them when Nene went out. They ended up doing very well, but I imagine Greg Popovich is going to have another wrinkle in his sleeve come Game 5 and really negate that Ryan Anderson at the 5. But then again, I mean, they have to guard Ryan Anderson at the 3-point line. So we'll see. That's for another day. We'll talk about that another day. But I just want to leave you with some post-game quotes from Popovich and Mike D'Antoni. Greg Popovich, after the game, was talking about the team's defense, and he said, well, for us, our Bible begins with transition defense, and if it's not there, then we're just not ready to go. And he's completely right. In the first quarter, the Rockets got out, had 13 points in transition. I'm sure he lost his living mind out there, and oddly enough, the Rockets were limited to 2 transition points for the rest of the game, as they would finish with only 15 points transitionally after that. Mike D'Antoni on the ball movement tonight here in Game 5, Sunday night. He says, it kicks in sometimes. I thought we did a great job of having patience with their drive-ins. Drive kick, instead of just throwing up quick floater, which is kind of what they want. We were able to keep moving the ball, or keep moving our people, and keep driving until we found the easier shot, and it worked. And I think that is one of the things that you saw tonight, is that the Rockets would make plenty of moves through the lane, and they would keep on pricking and probing and trying to find the right crease, the right person to pass to, the right shot. It just wasn't a quick floater. Drive through real quick. Hup! It just wasn't one of those. The Rockets were really trying to have a lot better offense in Game 4, and they did, and they walk out of here the victors. So that's pretty much what happened here in Game 4. Guys, I'm going to bounce on out of here. We'll probably do a Nene video when we find out what is officially wrong with him and how long he will be out. We'll talk about that when that comes out. But till then, I would appreciate you to follow and subscribe. And guys, let me know. Feel free to comment on the YouTube channel below, or comment on the video. Feel free to let me know what you thought about Game 4, and if this is something that you think is sustainable for the Rockets. Can they continue with this same offensive approach with ball movement and really trying to work the Spurs into the right shot? Oddly enough, in this game, the Houston Rockets finished with how many? They finished with a total of 10 free throws. That is drastically lower than they normally get. Hell, James Harden usually has 12, 13 free throws on his own. So you don't imagine that that's going to continue going forward. So lots of stuff to like in Game 4. A few things not to like. Let me know what you guys think about the game and the matchup going into Game 5. I believe that's on Tuesday. Game 5 on Tuesday. But that's all for me here. Once again, if this is your first time watching this video, this YouTube channel, I should say. My name is Josh Reese, and I am the face of Houston Sports. I appreciate you for watching this video. Feel free to like, feel free to share, feel free to share, subscribe, and follow my friends over at Countryside Massage here in Conroe, Texas. They do really great work. Tell them Josh Reese sent you. And with that, I will leave you with the catwalk here at Toyota Center. And now, we're out.